Albert Anastasia, The Dark and Shocking Secrets of a Mafia Lord. Albert Anastasia, one of the most feared mobsters in American history, is a figure shrouded in violence, mystery, and controversy. Known as the Mad Hatter and Lord High Executioner, his life was marked by brutal acts and startling incidents. Here are 10 scandalous and intriguing facts about this infamous underworld figure, detailing his rise and fall in the murky depths of organized crime. Fact number 1. The Shipyard Murders, Anastasia's Path to Power. In the 1920s, Albert Anastasia began his ascent to power through his strategic control over the Brooklyn docks, specifically dominating the International Longshoremen's Association. By exerting influence over this critical labor force, he positioned himself at the helm of the Waterfront's extensive economic and logistical operations. Among the numerous brutal acts attributed to Anastasia during this period, the most notorious was the murder of Peter Panto in 1939. Panto, a union activist, was vocal against the corruption and mob influence in the docks, making him a direct threat to Anastasia's interests. His disappearance sent shockwaves through the community, and when his body was finally discovered a year later, buried in a lime pit in Lyndhurst, New Jersey, the message was clear: opposition to mob control of the docks could be fatal. This murder exemplified Anastasia's brutal method of solidifying power, permanently silencing a prominent critic through a chilling display of violence. Number 2. The creation of Murder Incorporated. Albert Anastasia was a principal architect behind the infamous Murder Incorporated, an organized group formed in the early 1930s under the aegis of the National Crime Syndicate. This secretive and highly efficient killing machine was tasked with enforcing the syndicate's will across the United States, dealing with traitors, threats, and nuisances with deadly precision. Anastasia's involvement went far beyond a supervisory role. He was deeply engaged in the strategic planning and sometimes even the executions themselves. Murder Incorporated is believed to have been responsible for between 400 and 1,000 murders, with operations so clandestine that many of their victims' fates remained unknown. Through Murder Incorporated, Anastasia not only instilled fear but also maintained a semblance of order and obedience within the chaotic underworld, ensuring his status as one of the most feared and respected mob leaders. Number 3. Escape from the electric chair. The year 1921 marked a turning point for Albert Anastasia when he faced nearly certain death. Charged with the murder of a longshoreman named Joe Torino, Anastasia was convicted and sentenced to death by electrocution. However, his fate took a dramatic turn when the New York State Supreme Court overturned his conviction due to a critical procedural error during the trial. Released from Sing Sing's death row, this pivotal moment transformed Anastasia. The brush with death emboldened him, fueling a reputation of invulnerability that would define his subsequent rise through the mob ranks. This event not only spared his life but also cemented his resolve to operate with even greater boldness and impunity, significantly shaping his future as a formidable figure in organized crime. Number 4. A complex family man. Albert Anastasia, married to Elsa Bargnesi since the 1930s, portrayed a paradoxical blend of ruthless mob boss and devoted family man. Their union produced a son, Anthony Anastasia Jr., born on February 9, 1933. Despite his notorious life, Anastasia was seen as an attentive father, a stark contrast to his public image of brutality. His involvement in his son's education and upbringing often surprised those who knew him only as a feared mobster. Interestingly, Anthony Jr. also became involved in the criminal world, although not to the extent of his father. The complexity of his personal life deepened with the public claims made by Jack O'Halloran, born in 1943, who emerged as a professional boxer and actor. O'Halloran has publicly identified himself as Anastasia's son from an extramarital relationship, adding another layer to Anastasia's familial narrative. This aspect of his life showcased Anastasia's ability to compartmentalize his violent professional activities and his duties as a family man, making him a figure of intrigue and contradiction. Number 5. Control over the waterfront. By the mid-1940s, Albert Anastasia had established an ironclad control over the Brooklyn waterfront, a pivotal area for both legal and illicit activities. Through his leadership in the International Longshoremen's Association, Anastasia exerted significant influence, using his position to extort money from the shipping industries that relied on the docks for their operations. His control over the waterfront was not just about economic gain, it also provided a strategic advantage, allowing him to operate with relative impunity and shield his activities from law enforcement scrutiny. His dominance at the docks, essential for smuggling and other illegal enterprises, made him an indispensable figure in the underworld and solidified his reputation as one of New York's most powerful and feared mobsters. Number 6. The Barbershop Assassination. Albert Anastasia's life came to a violent end on October 25, 1957, in one of the most infamous mob hits in history. He was assassinated while sitting in a barber chair at the Park Sheraton Hotel, located at 870 7th Avenue, Manhattan. At approximately 10:20 a.m., two masked gunmen entered the barbershop, surprising Anastasia, who was covered by a barber's apron and unable to defend himself. The gunmen opened fire, shooting him multiple times in what was a carefully orchestrated hit, signaling a brutal shift in mafia leadership and tactics. The assassination was a significant event, symbolizing the brutal and treacherous nature of mafia politics and the constant danger even for those at the highest ranks of organized crime. Anastasia's public murder was a dramatic demonstration of the volatile power struggles within the mob and a reminder of the precariousness of power in the underworld. Number 7. Ruthless interrogation tactics. Albert Anastasia's interrogation techniques were notoriously brutal, involving methods that could only be described as torturous. His approach often included physical harm and psychological terror, extending threats not only to the individuals in question but also to their families. These tactics were so terrifying that some underworld figures reportedly preferred death to falling into his hands. This fearsome reputation helped cement his standing as a merciless mob boss and instilled deep-seated fear within both his criminal organization and rival groups. Anastasia's ability to wield fear as a tool of power was a critical component of his control over his criminal empire, making him a pivotal figure in the underworld's hierarchy of terror. Number 8. The Luchiano Connection, Alliance with a Crime Lord. Albert Anastasia's ascent within the American Mafia was significantly supported by his alliance with Charles "Lucky" Luciano, one of the most influential mobsters in American history. This partnership began in the 1930s, when Luciano was instrumental in restructuring the fragmented American Mafia into the National Crime Syndicate, a more organized and formidable federation of crime families. Luciano's endorsement of Anastasia provided him with crucial support within the syndicate, eventually aiding his rise to take over the Gambino family. This alliance was not just beneficial in terms of power but also instrumental in various joint ventures, including the expansion of mob activities into new territories, both geographically and in terms of business ventures. Number 9. The Betrayal of Bugsy Siegel, a Bloody Turn. The assassination of Benjamin Bugsy Siegel in 1947 is one of the most infamous events in mob history, with Albert Anastasia rumored to have played a significant role. Siegel, a charismatic and ambitious mobster, was instrumental in the development of Las Vegas as a gambling haven but was also notorious for his lavish spending and mismanagement, particularly with the Flamingo Hotel project. His killing in Beverly Hills was a calculated move by the mob to control the financial hemorrhage and serve as a brutal example of the consequences of crossing the syndicate. Although direct evidence linking Anastasia to the hit is scarce, his involvement in the decision-making process is widely believed, reflecting his influence and ruthlessness in dealing with internal conflicts within the mob. Number 10. Philanthropy and public image. In contrast to his violent reputation, Albert Anastasia was also known for his charitable efforts, especially within the Italian-American community. He contributed to various causes, including funding churches and community centers, possibly as a way to mitigate his notorious public image and to gain some social acceptance. These acts of philanthropy were seen by some as attempts to cleanse his soul or possibly to secure a favorable legacy. Despite his brutal career, these contributions added a complex layer to his persona, presenting a man who was capable of both extreme violence and significant generosity, leaving a conflicted legacy that continues to intrigue and perplex historians and the public alike.